Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea, hope you're all good. So this video I'm going to share with you my approach to recording guitars at home. Any guitar recording I do at home, whether it be for YouTube, my original material, or even like stuff like the Totemist when we recorded here, this is how I've been doing it. So I wanted to make use of the KHE amp switcher that I recently acquired because it allows me to record or listen to or play through multiple different amps in quick succession, which is really great in a recording application. And similarly, I've been taking line outs of load boxes for quite a while and then loading up an instance of archetype Nolly so that I can adjust the cab miking position after the fact, which has been really handy. And it's great to do that in a mix because of course you can just tweak the placement just right for the song that you're doing or the mix that you're doing. However, just with the new GGD Studio Cabs Cali edition, that's the same sort of idea. You just load up these plugins after the fact you've taken, the line out of your load box, and you can just tweak to your heart's content. So in this video I wanted to show you my approach to recording guitars using those techniques. So I've got Logic loaded up with a few instances of the Studio Cabs Cali edition and a few instances of archetype Nolly. And the cool thing is that we can jump between all these different amps and load boxes, but also we're going to take a look using the QC without using the cab section on the QC, running it into Logic so that we've got control of the cabs afterwards. So without further ado, let's take a look at how I'm recording guitars currently, because it's probably going to change at some point, let's be honest. Okay, so we've got our screen grab happening right now, and this is basically the session. You could set this up yourself, super easy, but what I've got running here is multiple different load boxes along the bottom, now including quad Cortex. Let's say you have like a 2 notes captor or the Boss tube amp expander or even the Suhr reactive load. You might just have one of these, but I'm going to show you multiple different ones because I've been using different load boxes for a while and they do sound different. We're going to focus less on how they sound, the load boxes, but we're going to focus more on the different studio cab sounds we can create. So firstly, we're running into the twin sister into the Suhr reactive load, so this bad boy here, and this is the sound that I've got rigged up with studio cabs. Was the sound of the twin sister using the studio cabs. Again, if you've watched any of the videos that we did with Nolly, when you're talking about mic placement, the difference between dark and bright is literally moving the microphone further away or closer to the dust cap, which is cool. And it's trusting that obviously Nolly's captured the best positions and sounds that way, which he has, in my opinion. They sound fantastic. But let's say you want more control over the sound of miking up a cab. If you already own a Neural DSP plugin, you can take the cab section. So in this instance, I always use archetype Nolly, and because we're on the twin sister, I figured that the sort of crunch cab was great. And what's really nice is that it's virtually miking, so you have more like, it's more interactive. So that's using archetype Nolly's cab section. As you can see, I've turned off the EQ, everything else, just using the cab section. And in case you were wondering about the reverb and how I'm doing it, is I'm sending each of these, because they don't have reverb in the amps, I'm sending it through to a bus with Space Designer on, just using the Ulm Chapel, which is a really nice reverb. But let's say that you wanted to hear, you wanted to use the effect in archetype. So I've turned it off. Let's go ahead and turn on the effects section. So you can quite clearly hear there that you can add the reverb and delay afterwards. And again, super handy, super cool way of doing it. I'm sure a lot of you guys do it, but when I stumbled across this particular approach, I really liked the idea that I can go ahead and move the mics around, get a completely different sound. Let's just experiment now. And then put it right close to the dust cap. So hopefully you can see there how when you're recording anything, whether it be music or for videos or whatever it is you're doing in recording, after the fact, it's really cool that you can carry on moving the mics around. Same with the Cali Edition studio cabs. It's just really cool having that flexibility afterwards. You're not printing the sound of the speaker necessarily, and considering it's so influential to the sound, I like the fact that I still have control after I've recorded. So it's a really interesting approach, but I like it. I think it's cool. Okay, so that was the twin sister into the Suhr. Let's try the Torpedo and the M0100. So that's this chap. This is the sound we've got going on here. Well, we've got guttural and massive. Let's have a listen. So I think that sounds pretty good. It's very mid-heavy. I've got the tube screamer on, to be fair, but it's a really nice sound. Let's try the revival drive. So now I want to try the Boss tube amp expander because it's got variable reactive loads. I've set it up for the SLO, so we're going to try that. This is the tube amp expander preset I'd made. It's a detailed and a massive cab. Let's take a listen. So that was the SLO and the tube amp expander, and this is the preset that I created for it. I thought it sounded really nice. Again, just for the sake of experimentation, let's just bang Archetype Nolly on there and have a little listen, see what happens. So tube amp expander, SLO, but we've also got Archetype. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to switch it over now to the high gain cab. Actually, we'll start there and then we'll switch it over and see how it sounds. So again, just the flexibility of being able to move the mics around, as you could hear there, just getting a different tone from it. It's really cool. So right, finally, I want to just quickly try the JVM. Let's try the JVM into the aux. Why not? Quick mess around on the JVM there. As you can clearly hear, and you could probably see on the screen grab, I was just switching between all the different speaker sounds and load boxes, and such a variation in sound on one amplifier. Some really intense, some really defined, some really squishy, some really like mid-heavy. So this is why I like doing it this way. You're not printing in the sound of the speakers, you know, when you record. You do that afterwards, and you don't have to commit till the very last thing that you do. And I think it's really, really useful, especially if you're a guitar player and you care about how your guitar sounds on recordings and, you know, songs and stuff like that. So it's really nice to have so much control over it. So now what I'm going to do is just do the exact same thing, but use something like the QC or any modeler or any amp sim. But you can do the same thing. You just take it into the computer, take off the cab section of whatever the amp sim or modeler is, and do the same process here. Okay, so I've loaded up my Quad Cortex preset. It's actually a capture of my twin sister that I made yesterday. There's no cab part on the preset itself. I'm using Archetype Nolly in this instance. So we're going to hear how it sounds. So this is it without. And now let's go ahead and turn it on. It's very similar to using the cab block in QC. It's the same company, of course it's going to be similar, but it's nice that you know you can mess around with it afterwards. Same principle as before, but again, let's try with the Studio Cabs version now. So to summarize, basically what I'm doing here is taking line out of load boxes or the amp line out signal without any cab filtering, so without any kind of cab simulation. So I want the amp tone into my computer or from my modeler into my computer, and then I load up these archetype plugins or like the studio cabs from GGD or any IR software you like to use. And the point of this video was just to show you the different ways you can affect the sound of the amp using speaker IRs and stuff, but also giving you the flexibility to not have to commit to your IR sound when you record in if you're not convinced, or that you just want the flexibility afterwards. And that for me is great. I love having that after the fact. It just allows me to not have to focus too hard on the exact speaker tones that I want when I'm recording. I can just get my ideas out and then come back to it afterwards when I'm mixing. So hopefully, that's shed a little bit of light on how I'm going about doing it at the minute, but also maybe inspired you guys to try something for yourself in a similar way. Whether you've got a Line 6 Helix or whether you've got the quad Cortex, use these different bits of software for speakers and stuff. The cool thing is that using something like QC or Helix, you can audition the sound in your computer, say, with something like Studio Cabs Cali Edition. Once you've found the IR setup you like, you can export that as an IR, put it into your quad Cortex or Helix or whatever else, and load that up in there. So it's just a nice way round of doing it. In any case, I think I've gone on enough about this particular process. I hope it's been nice and concise and to the point, because I've definitely waffled in this video, but I hope it made sense and it wasn't too long and boring. So in any case, I appreciate you watching this. This is to answer the questions for some of you guys about how I go about recording my guitars. So that's how I do it. That's how I'm recording guitars at the moment, and probably for the foreseeable future, using load boxes and then affecting the speaker tones after the fact using plugins and IRs and virtual miking. In any case, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think in the comments section below. Like, subscribe, and share. I've been Rabea, and I will see you all very soon.